Students, welcome to the next class. Chapter 3 In the Earliest Cities. In this chapter, we study about Indus Valley Civilization or the Harappa Civilization. The story of Harappa. Harappa is a town that is situated at the present day of Pakistan. There are rich resources already there, and so they carried out. There are quality of bricks in Harappa, and they carried out thousands of those bricks to form the walls of the old buildings of the city to build railway lines. So many of the buildings were completely destroyed there. It is about 80 years ago that archaeologists found the site, and they realized that this was the one of the oldest cities in the subcontinent. That is, it is about 4,700 years ago. Harappa was the first city that's to be discovered, and all other sites from the similar buildings were described as Harappan. What was special about these cities? So, in here, we are going to study about how their planning, how the city planning, how they designed their city, all that. So, in general, the cities were divided into two or more parts. Usually, the part to the west was smaller but higher. There are two parts, something like this, and we know the direction, that is east, north, west, south. So the part to the west of the city, it is usually smaller, but it is built on a high ground, that is higher. And the part to the eastern part, it is a large area. The part to the west was smaller but higher. Archaeologists describe this as a citadel. So they call it as a citadel. The part to the east was larger but lower. The eastern part, it is larger, but it is built on a lower ground compared to the citadel. This is called the lower town. We call it as a lower town. The walls of the baked bricks were built around each part. The bricks were so well baked that they have lasted for thousands of years. That is, this shows that the knowledge those people possess. The bricks were so well baked that they have lasted for thousands of years. The bricks were laid in an interlocking pattern that made the wall strong. Here we can say that these cities were found in Punjab and Sindh in Pakistan, and in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana, and Punjab in India. Archaeologists have found a set of unique objects in almost all these cities. Red pottery painted with design in black, stone, weights, seals, special beads, copper tools, and parallel-sided long stone blades. So this is a map of early cities in the subcontinent. So here, it is the present day of Pakistan, and this is India. So this is Gujarat. There is Dholavira, Surkotada, Lothal. Here's Mohenjo-daro. It is on the banks of Indus River. There is Harappa. Harappa is the first cities to be discovered in this civilization, and later all the cities are known as in the time of Harappan Civilization, and the whole civilization is known to be Harappan Civilization or the Indus Valley Civilization. Let us study about some cities. There are special buildings in some cities. So, in some cities, special buildings were constructed on the citadel. For example, in Mohenjo-daro, where is Mohenjo-daro? It is there. In Mohenjo-daro, a very special tanks, which archaeologists call the Great Bath, was built in this area. So, the Great Bath, it is on Mohenjo-daro. This was lined with bricks, coated with plaster, and made watertight with a layer of natural tar. So, how they built the Great Bath? It is situated on citadel, and it was lined with bricks, coated with plaster, and made watertight with a layer of natural tar. And the other features are, there were steps leading down to it from two sides. So, for the access, there are steps from two sides, and there will be rooms on all sides. Water was probably brought it from a well and drained after the use. So it is maybe used for a special occasions like that, and took a dip in this tank on a special occasion. The other cities such as Kalibangan and Lothal had fire altars where sacrifice may have been performed. These cities, the Kalibangan and Lothal, had fire altars. Can you find the Kalibangan? Yes, there it is, the Kalibangan. And Lothal, it is here. And some cities like Mohenjo-daro, Harappa and Lothal had elaborate storehouses. So here what we studied? We studied about what was the special about these cities. What parts or how the cities is divided and what structures was there. So we find out that the bricks were laid in interlocking pattern and that made wall strong. And first of all, we found that the city is divided into two parts or more. That is a citadel on the western side and a lower town on the eastern side. The citadel is usually smaller but higher. The lower town, it is larger but lower. And also in some cities like Mohenjo-daro, we found the Great Bath. And in other cities like Kalibangan and Lothal, we had fire altars and storehouses. So we study about Great Bath, fire altars and storehouses. This is a picture of Great Bath. You see, there are steps here, the steps for the access on the two sides. And here is a picture of how bricks were arranged to build walls in Harappan cities. It is a sample picture. So now we study about the houses, the drains and the streets. How the houses are built, how the drains and the streets. Generally, houses were either 1 or 2 story high, with the rooms built around a courtyard. Most of the houses had a separate bathing area, and some had wells to supply water. So, the houses, it is either 2 stories or single, with the rooms built around a courtyard. Most houses had a separate bathing area, and some had wells to supply water. Many of these cities had covered drains. Very often, drains in houses were connected to those on the streets, and smaller drains led into the bigger ones. So, they are connected. The drains are connected. So, the drains from the water or wastewater from the houses, it is connected to the drains of the street, and it is the smaller ones is connected to larger ones. So, they have a well planned and a well designed drain system. And also the drains were covered Inspection holes were provided at intervals to clean them. It all shows that they have a planned structure. This shows that all three, the houses, drains and street, were probably planned and built at the same time. So in here we see that how they will build the houses, how the streets and the drains, how they build. And we know it is a planned one. Now we study about the life in the city. So far we see that, or we studied that the houses, the street, the drains, how they planned it, and how the city is divided, and what are the major things in the city. So now we study about the life in the city. We know a Harappan city was a busy place, and there were people who planned the construction of special buildings in the city. These were probably the rulers. It is likely that the rulers sent people to distant land to get metals or precious stones and other things that they wanted, because the old metals that we found in the Harappan civilization, it is not from that area. We imported, like present day we import metals from the other countries. They also imported metals they got the metals from other areas. We will study about that, from where they got the metals and the other things also. And in this picture we saw that this is a drain. It is on a street in the Mohenjo-daro with a drain and a well. See, it is how they planned their streets. So in this picture here we see that a Harappan seal. The sign on the top seal are part of a scripts, and here there are terracotta toys. So here we study about new crafts in the city. So let us look at some of the objects that were made and found in Harappan cities. These objects are made by stone, shell and metal, including copper, bronze, gold and silver. Copper and bronze were used to make tools, weapons, ornaments and vessels. Gold and silver were used to make ornaments and vessels. The most striking finds are those of beads, weights and blades. In this picture, we saw a stone weights, how carefully and precisely these weights are shaped. These were made of chert, a kind of stone. These weights are made up of chert, a kind of stone. And on here we see beads. Many of them were made out of carnelian, a beautiful red stone. They were made up of carnelian, a beautiful red stone. The stone was cut, shaped and polished, and finally a hole was bored through the center so that a string could be passed through it. So remember, it is made up of carnelian, a beautiful red stone. And here it is stone blades. And also on here in this picture we saw a embroidered cloth, a stone statue of an important man found from Mohenjo-daro show him wearing an embroidered garment. So these pictures, it shows that Harappans made seals out of stone, and these are generally rectangular and usually have an animal carved on them. We saw that this is a seal and usually it is a rectangular one and an animal. It is carved. And cotton. Cotton was probably grown at Mehergarh from about 7,000 years ago. Can you spot Mehergarh? Fines. Fines is a material that is artificially produced. How it produced? It is an artificial material, and a gum was used to shape sand or powdered quartz into an object. The object were then glazed, resulting in a shiny glassy surface. The colors of the glaze were usually blue or sea green. That is how we produce fines. It is an artificially produced subject material. And what are the uses? It uses for beads, to make bangles and earrings. And we also make tiny vessels from it. From all these pictures, we can say that these are produced by a specialist. Maybe a person who is trained to do only one kind of work. For example, cutting stone or polishing beads or carving seeds. So this may be made up of by a specialist. So in search of raw material. Some of the raw materials that the Harappans used were available locally, but many of the items are not available on locally, so they brought from distant places. Like the copper, it is from the present day of Rajasthan and Oman. It is brought from the present day Rajasthan and even from Oman. Similarly, the tin, it is from the present day of Afghanistan, Iran. The gold is from Karnataka. The precious stones, they may be present day of Gujarat, Iran and Afghanistan. So, copper is from Rajasthan, Oman. Tin, it is from Afghanistan, Iran. Gold, it is from Karnataka. And precious stones, it is from the present day of Gujarat, Iran and Afghanistan. And in this picture, we can say how were goods carried from one place to another. In this here, one shows a toy and the other is a seal. Here it is a seal and there is a toy. So we know that the food for people in the cities. There are craftspersons, scribes and rulers in the cities. All them need food, and the farmers and herders supplied the food. They grew crops and reared animals. In the countryside, they grew crops and reared animals. A new tool, the plough, was used to dig the earth. It is used for turning the soil and planting the seed. So they are now using a new tool for turning the soil and planting seeds. And there is a toy of plough. It is probably made up of woods and not iron or copper. It is probably made up of wood. And also we know that these regions, they do not receive heavy rainfall. So for growing plants, we need irrigation. So there may be irrigation have been used. The Harappans, they reared cattle, sheep, goat and buffalo. Water and pastures were available around the settlements. Now we look into the Harappan town in Gujarat, that is Dholavira. It is located on Kadir Bell in the run of Kutch. Here it is Dholavira. This is Dholavira. It is on the present day of Gujarat. So what is special about this city? The city is divided into 3 parts. And there is a large open area. A large letters of Harappan scripts are found here. And this open area, it is used for public ceremonies like that. And large letters of Harappan scripts that were carved out of white stone and perhaps inlaid in woods. We know that this is a unique find because Generally, Harappan writings have been found on small objects such as seals. And here in Dholavira, we found a large database of Harappan scripts that were carved out of white stone and perhaps inlaid in wood. That is about the city of Dholavira. It is divided into three parts. There is a large open area, probably maybe some public ceremonies are held in there. And we found a large database of Harappan script that is carved out on white stone and perhaps inlaid in wood. Next, we study about the city of Lothal. This is a city, Lothal. It is close to the Gulf of Kambat and it was situated near the areas where raw materials such as semi-precious stones were easily available. And this was an important center for making objects out of stone, shell and metals. There, semi-precious stones were easily available and it became an important center for making objects out of stone, shell and metal. And in this picture, we see a dockyard at Lothal. And this is huge tank may have been dockyard where boats and ships came in from the sea and through the river channel. Goods were probably loaded and unloaded here. And in Lothal, building that was found here was probably a workshop for making beads. Piece of stone, half-made beads, tools for bead making and finished beads have all been found here. Can you say why they use seals? Seals may have been used to stamp bags or packets containing goods that were sent from one place to another. So there is trade happening and we need to send goods from one place to another. So seals are used to stamp the bag. That is how they used. After a bag was closed or tied, a layer of wet clay was applied on the knot and the seal was pressed on it. The impression of seal is known as sealing. So the impression of the seal is known as sealing. That is, after a bag is closed, we put a seal on it. If the sealing was intact, one could be sure that the goods have arrived safely. That is why they use seals. The mystery of the end. Around 3,900 years ago, we find the beginning of a major change. So, people stopped living in many of the cities. In Mohenjo-daro, we find that garbage piled up on the streets, the drainage system broke, and new, less impressive houses were built, even over the streets. Why did all this happen? What are the reasons? So can you find out why these major changes are happening? So some scholars suggest that it may be because of the rivers dried up. Some others suggest that it may be due to the deforestation. We know that there is use of baking bricks. The baking bricks are used. So in order to bake bricks, they need fuel. That is, the wood are used to bake the brick and for smelting copper ores. So in these kind of activities, they need fuel and they used woods and it caused deforestation. So maybe deforestation as a reason to all these changes. Some others suggest that there may be flood in the areas. So these areas are destroyed by flood or like that. Or the other thing is destroyed the green cover because of grazing. Overgrazing, it destroyed the green cover. These are the suggestions by various scholars. But none of these reasons can explain the end of all the cities. Flooding or a river drying up would have had an effect in only some areas. We know these kind of reasons cannot explain why all the cities have changes. So it appears as if the rulers lost control, if any, in any cases, the effect of the changes are quite clear. Sites in the Sindh and West Punjab, that is in the present day of Pakistan, were abandoned while many of people moved into newer, smaller settlements to the east and the south. The new cities emerged about 1400 years later. You will read about them in chapter 5 and 8. So now let's recall. There is some important dates there. Cotton cultivation at Meherkar, it is about 7000 years ago. Beginning of cities, it is about 4700 years ago. Beginning of the end of these cities, 3900 years ago. The emergence of other cities, 2500 years ago. We studied about all this. And here in the match the columns. Copper, it is found from Rajasthan. Gold, it is from Karnataka. Tin, it is Afghanistan. And the precious stone, it is from the Gujarat.